Hi, Dorothy here.
Hey Dorothy, just doing an audio check. I can hear you fine. This is Cormac.
Perfect. Thanks, Cormac. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the call. I'm going to just give another couple of minutes. I think we've about 20 people on and we're expecting another few more. So I'm just going to give another 2 minutes before we kick off, if that's okay. So I think we're there or thereabouts. I see that the numbers creeping up, so I'm going to start if that's okay. Just to welcome everybody. My name is Dorothy O'Byrne. I'm Managing Director of CCMA Ireland. So thank you very much for joining on our judges call today. For those of you new to the process or maybe first time entrants, this call should be no more than about half an hour. You see I have on screen there a presentation that I'll quickly take you through, but will also be available to download afterwards from our website, just to give you some insights into the awards process and an overview of this year's categories and criteria. Hopefully you will have all downloaded the application pack, and just bear with me a second, I'll actually just bring it up. Okay, so sorry, I'll go through the agenda first. So we have everybody muted, but as you can see, there's a little chat button there. I'm just showing it on my screen. So if at any stage you have any questions, please put them in there now or as we go through the call, and we'll hopefully answer them as we go through the call. As I say, we'll be recording the call and we'll make that available on the website, and we will also be putting up a copy of this presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly go through the agenda here. So as you can see, you know, we'll cover off why enter the awards, an overview of the 17 categories, an overview of the judging process, some hints and tips, and some dates for your diary. And if you don't mind for a minute, I'm just going to come out of the presentation to show you the application pack, which hopefully you have all downloaded from our website. I'll just show you where that is there. So actually I'm showing you the wrong thing. Bear with me a second. I had two things open. Yes. So our application pack is on our website under Awards 2019, and you can see it there. It's a 20-odd page document that you might like to print off, and it goes through the award categories one by one, of which there's 17, and then it also goes through the criteria. So what I'm going to do as part of this call is just go through the criteria, not by category, but just to give you an overview and show you how it works. And then there's a couple of small changes to two categories this year that I'll talk to you about as well. So just to go back to our presentation for a moment. So kicking off in terms of housekeeping, I've already covered this. I think we have everybody muted. We'll unmute you at the end, but in the meantime, if you have any questions, please use the chat box that should be over on the right hand side of your screen. And as you can see, there's the chat box where you can type in a question even when you have them. Also, just to say for anybody who might be a little bit shy, happy to set up a call afterwards today, a one-to-one call if you have any particular questions on your potential submissions or on any of the things that we cover on the call today. And just to ask you again, if you want to join the audio part, to do that now if you can. So why enter the awards? Actually, what I might just do very quickly is just to see, make sure everybody can use the chat box. Just make sure everybody, if you could give me a thumbs up to let me know that you can hear me okay and that the sound is good. Appreciate that. I'm assuming everybody can. Yeah, thanks, Cormac. I'll assume everybody else is okay. Great. Okay, so to kick off, so why enter the awards? So the annual awards for the Customer Contact Management Association, we have been running these awards for over 10 years at this point, and the awards are open to companies who are members of the CCMA, but also to companies who are not members. And what our purpose and our goal is really to champion the customer service and customer experience industry in Ireland. And the focus of these awards is very much, as it says there in our first point, is to celebrate the excellence within the sector in Ireland. But it's also to showcase what is so good and vibrant about the customer contact and shared services industry here, and also to give you the ability to be recognised for the excellence in services that you are providing. It also gives companies the opportunity to give recognition to key staff and to teams and team members. And also some companies use the awards as a springboard for other European and global awards. The entries are from all ranges and sizes of companies, so Indigenous Irish operations, multinational companies, public sector organisations, and across all industry sectors, so financial services, telco, healthcare, travel, tourism, etc. What I would suggest for any new time entrants is to have a look at our website and to go on the page for last year's awards, the 2018 awards, and you'll actually be able to download the book of the night from last year, and that gives a very good overview and picture of the companies who entered last year, you know, what type of programs were won, what companies won, who were highly commended, who were shortlisted, and it gives a very good flavour of, for each category, what the judges were looking for in those particular categories, because we normally give a short text on why that particular company or individual was chosen to be the winner of the award or to be highly commended. Sorry, my mouse is a little bit slow for some reason. Now, so I'm going to give an overview of the 17 categories. So they're sort of split between people, processes, and contact centre size. So the people ones, as you'd expect, there are, to be fair, our biggest award of the night every year is always the Customer Service Advisor of the Year. And this is the award that will generate the most entries of all categories. We also have awards for Team Leader of the Year, Support Professional of the Year, and just to explain, Support Professional can be anybody in a support role. So it might be a workforce planning specialist, a business analyst, a HR support manager. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a manager, but anybody that's in a role that's supporting the customer service or shared services operation. The manager then would generally, this category is for a senior manager who would have profit and loss responsibility for the contact centre. Again, sometimes that one can cause a little bit of confusion. So if you have somebody in mind, or you have yourself in mind for this category, feel free to give me a call or to drop me an email, and we can set up a call just to talk about generally the profile of the individual that would be put forward for that award. The other obviously big awards of the night are Team of the Year and Support Team of the Year. And the distinction between those two categories is Team of the Year is generally a frontline facing team. Support Team of the Year could again be your back office team, your HR team, workforce planning team, IT support team. So anybody who's providing a service that supports the frontline or the front office. We then have an award for Best Training and Development. We split out our technology category last year, so we have two categories in technology. The Tactical Project, which is a sort of a once-off particular project that you have run in the last 12 months, that we ask you to tell us about, and I'll show you the criteria in a second just to go through that. And also then a strategic program, which would be a much more longer term program. It would generally be a big budget type program, maybe, a new CRM, in the digital space, a new digital platform. But again, I'll quickly look at the criteria for those two shortly, just to show you the distinction between the two. And then the use of social media. And then in terms of operations, we have awards for Shared Services Centre of the Year, the Best Sales Campaign, Outsourced Partnership of the Year, Best Customer Experience, and then Customer Contact Centre of the Year, Small, Medium and Large. And how we try and differentiate them is small tends to be less than 50, medium tends to be below about 150, and large is generally 150 plus. So again, the criteria is actually the same across all of those three categories. The only differences are the number of people actually working in the contact or shared services centre. So before I jump into the judging, I'm just going to come out for a moment and go into the application pack, which, as I explained to you, is on our website and can be downloaded. So you'll see there the 17 award categories, and just by way of example, I'll take you through the first one to explain how we outline it and the criteria, etc. So for every category, at the beginning of the category, we give an explanation of what we are looking for in that particular category. So We are, in this case, the best training and development, and we've made a small change to this year just to make people aware that I've entered this category previously. So here we're looking for an innovative and strategic training and development programme that has had a real impact on the performance and results of the operation. Entries can include change management, team or individual training programmes. It can be an internal programme or a programme delivered in collaboration with an external partner. Now that last section there is the update we've made to that category this year, because we received feedback from some members that they felt that if it was a programme they hadn't delivered themselves or designed themselves internally, but they'd maybe worked with a partner on, it would not be eligible. But very much programmes worked and developed in collaboration with partners are eligible for this category. So certainly feel free to enter if you have any programmes that fit in there. And as you see there, we talk about who will be the winner of this award. So it's one that has demonstrated best practice and innovative methodologies and thinking in the design and implementation of the programme. So we then explain, and this text to the right-hand side in the blue font is the same really for every category, and the word count might differ slightly. So we clearly show, and I'm just going to scroll down to show you this, how we want the information presented for that category. So you'll see every category has 5 sections. We have a heading on each section, and we show you very clearly the marks for each section. So in the case of this very first category, Breast Training and Development Programme, we're looking for an overview of the development and training objectives, and there's 15 marks of that. And we give you very clearly what we mean by that. You know, the objectives, the details of the partner organisation. Section 2 then is the design and delivery, and you can see there's quite a big, quarter of the marks are there for the process involved in designing, the delivery and the assessment. Section 3 is the results, which gets by far the highest marks. So we want to look at what impact this training has had, and ideally if you can provide return on investment information for the particular programme. Section 4 then is innovation, where we ask you to point out why you think in particular this entry, this programme is deserving of the award for 2019. And then we ask you in this particular category about the follow through, so future plans and how you ensure that the training has been embedded within the operation. So you can see very clearly 5 sections, subheadings within that, and the marks for each section are shown clearly. We ask you to follow this format when you're putting your submission together. So in other words, follow the heading so that from a judging perspective, it's very easy to pull the information out that the judges are looking for. And we also ask you to stick to the word criteria. So you can see here the word count limit is 2,500 words. And we are really strict on this because unfortunately in the past some companies have gone over the top sometimes in terms of the amount of material that they present, and therefore it's very unfair if a company who provides an application with 5,000 words is marked against a company who has stuck to the guidelines that we provided, which is 2,500. So the judges are really strict on the word count. Now just to say the headings, so copying the headings for each section are not included in the word count. Sometimes it can get down to the last 10 or 20 words and people are contacting me and saying, oh, we just can't edit it any further. So if it, we're obviously sensible in terms of how we apply our criteria, but definitely we would like that you stick to 2,500, and that excludes the headings and the various lines in the criteria. So by chance, the second category that we've actually changed this year and updated slightly is best customer experience. Now, this is what we would call one of the big awards of the night. So this is, for first-time entrants, this award will take a lot of work in terms of putting your submission together, because we are looking for your customer experience stats, your performance for the last 12 months. And I'll come back to the dates and the criteria shortly, because we give you a guideline of what dates apply for the information that you're going to provide. But again, what we've done here is we've tried to make sure that we're encompassing the full customer experience process. So we're looking to include the digital channels. So you see that we talk about an improved end-to-end service delivery model. So we really are this year ensuring that we cover all aspects of customer experience for companies who are putting entries in this category. Again, you'll see the word count is 2,500. And have 5 categories there, and we specify out what we are looking for. And we're looking very much to understand how the contact centre supports the customer experience strategy of a particular organisation. And the big part of that is providing data to show your results and your performance, and also to talk about your processes for measuring customer experience, how you handle complaints, and any improvement transformation initiatives you've implemented in the last 12 months. I'm not going to go through each category. They're pretty self-explanatory once you read through them, but I will just highlight I want to just go through the 2 technology ones and also just an individual one to explain that one to you. So as I mentioned, there's 2 aspects to technology. So one is this one here, category 5, which is a strategic program. And to give an indication of this, we have said, it's for a company that can show how they've just successfully deployed new technologies, digital platforms to transform their organization's business performance and customer experience. And we are putting as a guideline that we would have expected that this would have been a major investment, like in the region of in excess of 1 million. Now, again, that's not a strict figure, but it's just to give a guideline. And again, we would anticipate that you will have worked with a partner for this program. So again, there's obviously a lot of technology providers out there who, are involved with the CCMA. So we would expect that, it might be the implementation of technology from a new technology partner or enhancement of a platform that you already have. But just to give you to show you the difference between the 2 technology categories. So that's strategic program. And then tactical project is really for how you've deployed a particular type of technology, tool or application to improve your business performance and customer experience. And the reason we brought in this additional category last year is that we found that the entries, this was previously just a best use of technology program. And we found that, we weren't comparing apples with apples. So some companies were putting in entries for very big strategic programs, and others were putting in entries for very clever, what we are now calling a tactical project, or a new enhancement that sometimes they may have developed in-house themselves, but that has really had a very positive impact on the performance in terms of customer experience, in terms of employee engagement, in terms of support. So, things like knowledge management systems, a lot of sort of projects in that area. So that's what this category is about. It's recognizing those, much smaller scale projects, tactical projects, but ones that have had a significant impact on the operation of the business. I won't go through social media, but I will just take you through one of the individual ones. And you'll see here the word count will vary by category. So make sure you always check that you understand clearly the word count. And for the individual ones, we have a lower word count, which is 1,500, and I'll explain why in a moment. But again, for all of the individual ones, the criteria are very similar. So we look for, first and foremost, a profile of the advisor. So a little bit of career history, and an understanding of their roles and responsibility, and also an understanding that they have enjoy a work-life balance. We then obviously look for performance, and I suppose companies sometimes ask me, how do we decide who we put forward for this award? And I know a lot of companies, you have your own individual internal advisor of the month or advisor of the quarter. So it'll generally be somebody who has obviously been recognized in that way and maybe have won your internal awards once or twice. And sometimes companies actually select the winners for the previous 12 months and either ask the team leaders and management team to select someone to put forward, or sometimes we'll put it out to the floor. So it's completely up to your own organization how you pick the person. There's no limit. You want to enter more than one person, absolutely, delighted for you to do that. But we do assume that when you're putting someone forward, it is a high performing advisor. So it's somebody that we often say has gone the extra mile, but they just stand out, and sometimes there's one clear person that your company would say, yes, we're going to put them forward for this award. We obviously look for a customer focus. We generally look for a contribution to service improvement and innovation, and we generally find in this category that these are people who go a little bit extra, and maybe are the person that when you're bringing in a new process or you're working on a new project or system enhancement, might be the person that you get involved in that from an advisor's perspective to give their feedback and input. And we also look for information on personal development. Now, there's no requirement here for an advisor to have had a particular qualification. Winners of this category in previous years have been people that have been in the role, maybe 10 plus years. So there's no requirement for particular education and qualifications, but we just do like to know, you know, if there's a particular qualification that this person has attained. I know in financial services there's a lot of banking qualifications that are a minimum requirement, so sometimes that'll be the type of information we receive here, and also a summary of personal achievements. Now we ask you to include a photograph of the advisor purely because sometimes we'll get photographs with their team, but just so we can, you know, I suppose put a face to a name and get an understanding of the individual. And you know, with something like that, we ask you just, you know, 1 or 2 photos is sufficient. And we also then, and I should have actually pointed this out earlier on, in addition to the word count limit on each entry, we do allow you to include appendices, and we say no more than 5 appendices, and ideally, you know, less than that. Now, we will ask, and I think we have it there, for, you see there in criteria 3, customer, peer and management testimonials, and we're delighted to get those, but we don't need 3 or 4 pages of testimonials, so ideally, you know, 2 or 3 testimonials are more than sufficient. It would generally be one from a peer, maybe if you've received a communication from a customer specific to that advisor, obviously it's nice to include that, and ideally a management testimonial, a direct manager, line manager or senior manager, whichever you prefer. But certainly in the past we have received entries where companies have included, you know, 10, 15 testimonials, and there really is no need for that. Certainly up to 3, a maximum of 5 would be what I would suggest is more than enough. And it's really just to get an idea of, you know, what this person has been recognised for and why you have picked this person out from all of your advisors to be the one to be put forward for this category. So you'll see, I won't go through these, it's pretty similar in terms of team leader, support professional, and just to say on support professional, you'll see there we also talk about, you know, trainers, coaches, business analysts, IT professionals as being included. And again, if you have any doubt as to which category is relevant for a particular individual, do get in touch. And then manager, as I said earlier, this very much is for a senior individual within the organisation that has full accountability for the operation. So again, in previous years, we have received entries from managers who the judging panel felt were not at a senior enough level for this, because this is obviously a very big accolade within the industry in Ireland. So it really has to be somebody who has full accountability. Now I know sometimes those sort of managers at that level don't want to be put forward or feel that they don't want to be the one looking for the accolade, you know, for whatever reason. But what we do encourage people to enter this category is because we really want to showcase within Ireland the really high caliber level of managers, team leaders, support professionals, and to show that we have that talent there. And you know, we've had some fantastic winners of this award in previous years, who are, you know, have gone on to even further success within the industry. Team of the year, again, this will generally be this will be a frontline team, and again we give an indication of no more than about 20 advisors on the team. So again, in the past we've had entries where we have had 40 to 50 advisors, and you know, the judges have felt that's more of a business unit rather than a team. So 20 is our indication. It can go as low as 3 or 4, depending on the size of your operation. You may have a team that has 3 or 4 team members, and that's absolutely eligible for this. And again, one of the things that sometimes we miss in this award category is, you know, to get a flavour of the team. So you'll see there we look for an overview of the team, their role and responsibilities. We look for, you know, head count, staff structure. But ideally, if you could include, you know, the names of the team, maybe a photo of the team, and just, you know, it's nice to get a picture of the individuals, because often what we see in the winning team is that the culture of the team can be driven by all of the different personalities that are within the team, and that it has become a very successful team based on the, you know, the culture and the collaboration that takes place within the team. So we do really want to get a feeling for the team, you know, as I say, an overview to get an understanding of the individuals who make up the team, as it were. So you can see we look for stats on performance, we look to learn about their communication and team building, and also innovation. And again, we look for testimonials. And again, for every category that we look for testimonials, you know, ideally 3, certainly no more than 5. And then again, support team, as you see there, we give an overview of, they could be in business intelligence, human resources, finance, credit management, project management, vendor management. So there's a whole range of teams, and that's just an indicative list. It's not a definitive list by any means. So again, we'd ask you to give us an idea so we can understand the members of the team and how they work together as a group. Perfect. So Shared Services Centre of the Year is for an international shared services centre location in Ireland. It can be an in-house shared services centre providing internal support, or it can obviously be an external shared services centre. And you will see the criteria there. And then for the last 3 categories, as I say, the criteria is the exact same. The only difference is the number of agents or customer service advisors. So as I said, for small, we say less than 50. For medium, we say 50 plus to 200, and for large, it's 200 plus. So again, you'll see the criteria is the exact same across 3 categories. An overview of the operation, mission, values, staff structure, performance against key targets, staff acquisition, application of technology, and the integration with the wider organisation. And sorry, I think we have a question that I might have missed. Sorry, thanks, Cormac. Questions, bear with me. So sorry, I'm just having a problem reading it on my screen, but I see there's a question. Can an organisation enter more than one entry into a category, e.g. technology? I think that's saying tactical. Oh, I don't know why I can't. Apologies, I can't. For some reason, it's not letting me see that. Yes, if I understand the question, but if I'm not answering the correct question, apologies. For some reason, my screen is very small and I can't actually see the full question. But absolutely, you can enter. The technology one, I suppose for us, clearly, it's either a tactical project or it is a strategic program. So in terms of entering the same entry twice, I don't know if that would be appropriate, but probably what's best to do, and for some reason, it's not letting me see who even asked the question, but I'll get it afterwards. If the person who's asked that question wants to give me a call afterwards, I can provide more detail on that.
Dorothy, it's Cormac. Just bouncing in there. I think the other question was from Mark. It was, do words inside pictures count towards the word count?
No, they don't. No, and labels on graphs or pictures don't count in the word count. So literally, thanks, Cormac. Literally, what counts in the word count is the text. So the information that you provide, but the headings, labels on pictures or graphs absolutely don't count. So you don't need to worry about that. Sorry, Cormac, for some reason I can't see the questions, it's just gone. So if anything else comes up, you might just give me a nudge there, please, if you don't mind.
Sure, I think you've answered the other 2, so that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Great, thanks, Cormac. So just to finish off on this section then, a couple of things to mention. So for a number of categories, we have a presentation, so how it actually works, and I'm going to come back to the presentation and explain to the judging process, but the entries are required by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 4th of September. We only accept entries by email to the awards@ccma.ie email address. Then for categories, and they'll be very clear, and you'll see it here, I'm just showing it on this one for small, we show you that for certain categories, there will be a presentation once you have been shortlisted. So if you're shortlisted in any of the contact centre categories, in best customer experience, in shared services centre of the year, in the technology strategic program category, we will come back to you probably within most likely about 4 weeks of the closing date to say you have been shortlisted and we would like you to come for a presentation. Now we're hoping those presentations will be week commencing the 14th of October, but I will confirm that. And what will normally happen is I will go back to my contact, who's the person who submits the entries. It's a presentation. They're generally in the Clayton Hotel where we hold the awards in November. We ask you to bring no more than 3 individuals and you'll meet members of the judging panel, and it is generally no more than a half an hour where we will ask you for the particular category that you're shortlisted for to highlight particular elements of it, and then the judging panel will have some questions. So it'll be very clear in the application pack which categories that applies to, and then you obviously find out on the night if you've been successful in that category. For individual entries, so advisor, team leader, support professional, we do, I don't like calling it an interview because it's not an interview, but I've no other way of describing it. We basically have a very short telephone call with individuals that have been shortlisted. So again, I'll be in touch with you about 3 weeks after the awards have been submitted, maybe 4 weeks. And again, I'll be looking to schedule a very short call, again, no more than 10 or 15 minutes, where a number of the judges speak to the candidate, as it were. Now, I'm hoping that they'll be the week earlier. They most likely will be the 7th of October. But again, for any, ideally for individuals, if we can have them all at the same time, it just makes it easier from a judging perspective. But if somebody's away or on holidays or not in the office, we can obviously reschedule it. For the presentations the week of the 14th, we're relatively strict on those because with the judging panel, it's very difficult and there's different judging panels for different categories. So it can be quite difficult to try and fit someone in at a different time, but we'll do our best to do that if we need to. But just to be aware that is the process for, I think, 7 of the 17 categories that we have presentations and or interviews. So I'm just going to pop back to the presentation for a moment. So I've gone through all of the categories. So just to explain the judging process then, so we have a panel of 12 judges and a chairperson. Yvonne Keaveney is our chairperson and has been for the last number of years. So what happens is, in terms of the process, different judges judge different categories depending on their area of competency, and obviously if there's any conflicts of interest, they don't. But they generally tend to be independent consultants that have worked in the industry for some time, or they're people who are in other customer experience organisations, but those organisations aren't participating in the awards, or they're experts in their particular field. So actually Cormac, who's on the call, who works with WSI, who are our social media partner, would be one of the judges for our best use of social media. So we bring in industry experts. All of the judges give up their time freely, and actually we often get applications for people who want to become judges because it's a fantastic way of getting an understanding of what's happening in the industry and just seeing some of the really great work that's taking place. So they're provided with a scoring matrix depending by category, by criteria, by entry, and they're given a number of weeks to judge and to score, and then they submit that to the chairperson of the judging panel. We then collate a short list, and for all of the categories that require an interview and or presentation, we'll be back to you, as I say, within 3 or 4 weeks of the closing date to say, yes, you've been shortlisted and we would either like to schedule an interview or have a presentation on a particular date. And then for all other categories who require presentation, or who have entered but don't require a presentation or an interview, you won't hear back on the shortlist for those until just after the October bank holiday weekend. And I'll come back to that just in a moment in terms of that shortlist. So sorry, just briefly to cover this. This is, I think I've covered it already, the telephone interview. So as I say, it's for advisor, team leader, support for professional. And at this point in time, it's most likely to be week commencing the 7th of October. And I normally get in touch with my contact. We get a phone number to ring the individual on, and we give you a time. And as I say, it's no more than a 10-15 minute call. And all candidates are asked the exact same questions, and that just helps in terms of then scoring and deciding on who the ultimate winner and who will be highly commended in this category. And then the presentations, as I say, they're the categories that they are relevant for. And actually, I forgot to say contact centre manager is one of the categories that we do meet the shortlisted candidates. And again, at this point in time, we are planning for those presentations to be the week commencing the 14th. And most likely it'll be the 14th, 15th and 16th of that week that we'll be running those presentations. So just to finalise or to go through on the process, so how it works then from a judging perspective is we have the presentations, the judges meet on a particular day, which is towards the end of October, and we have all of the scores from the individual judges. We have the additional information from the judges who took part in the presentations and the interviews, and we have a very robust discussion on each category, and ultimately a decision is made on who the winners or highly commended would be in each category. So for all categories that don't require an interview or presentation, you will be hearing from me on the week commencing the 28th of October whether you have been shortlisted or not. And obviously for every category, you find out on the 16th of November if you have been a winner or highly commended in that category. So hints and tips, and just sorry, before I go into that, I just want to go back to the last page on the application pack, just to go through the terms and conditions. And it's more in connection with the relevant dates for entries. So for particular categories where we are looking for information, so for instance, the best customer experience or the contact center of the year, where we're looking for performance information, we ask that you give data for the period or some part of the period, but ideally for the bigger categories for the full year, from the 1st of August last year to the 31st of July this year. Now, we do that because we allow the fact that the closing date is early September, so obviously August stats would be just hot off the press, so it doesn't really give you a lot of time. But if you want to come back and say to me, well, actually it suits us to give the 1st of July 2018 to the 30th of June 2019, that's absolutely fine. But just make sure you make that very clear. Now, for others, like something like the best sales campaign, the relevant dates will be the dates of the campaign, the same for the best training and development program. So for particular categories, you know, we don't need a year of data. It's the data that's relevant to the particular program, you know, things like the IT tactical project as well. That's the dates that are relevant. But again, if you have any questions or concerns or queries around that, do feel free to contact me directly. The information that's there is just all around, you know, the cost for entries, the application, and the application form will be available later this week, hopefully, and that's just a form that needs to be signed by a senior executive to declare, an authorised company official, to declare that all the information provided is truthful and accurate. And as I said earlier, the closing date is 5 p.m. on the 4th of September, and it's to the email address awards@ccma.ie. Okay, so I'm just going to hop back then to the presentation, if that's okay. Just in terms of hints and tips, and I suppose we say these every year, and hopefully they do help. So as I sort of pointed out earlier on, you know, it's really like an exam question. You know, follow the criteria, and you see very clearly where the marks are awarded and which criteria, you know, gain higher marks than others. What I will say is that if there's a question that we ask that you do not have the answer for, or you do not have that information, so the example I always give is if, for instance, you don't, or you haven't got a figure on the return on investment on your best training and development program, don't ignore the criteria. Just explain that you do not have that information for whatever reason. So rather than leave a heading blank, as it were, you know, provide information to us as to why you cannot provide the material that we ask for. Or for instance, if we're asking, you know, what's your net promoter score, and you don't measure net promoter score, you maybe use customer effort or CSAT, just explain that. So it's more that we know you have looked at the question and addressed it, rather than from a judging perspective thinking you've completely ignored something that we've asked you for. So very much, you know, just explain that to us. Sorry, I can see something here. Cormac, I don't know if there's another question now that you might want to just...
Yeah, there's a couple in here if you want to take questions now, Dorothy. One is in from Kim, and she's asking about what time period should we use for the stats. I think you've already covered that one.
Okay, and Kim, if there's any confusion on that, feel free to give me a call afterwards.
And another one in from Katrina, with regards to the support team category, what is meant by model methodology employed by the team to deliver its service?
I'd need to go back to that, but if memory serves me right, what we're looking for is, you know, sometimes teams use Six Sigma, things like that. Say it's something like a quality improvement or a performance enhancement team, and that you just share information on the methodology that they're using to perform as a team. But Katrina, let me look at that again, and I will come back to you separately on that. But certainly from the top of my head, that's what we're looking for there, that you just explain how they operate as a team, and any methodologies that they're using. But let me go into that in more detail, and I'll come back to you separately on it, if that's okay.
So one other from Emer, Dorothy, it says, you know, where does it list the award categories that have the presentation requirement?
So I just pop back to the application pack for a sec there, just to show you that. It's actually in the explanation. Sorry, for some reason my computer has decided not to let me do that. Apologies, now it's not letting me. Oh yeah, there, bear with me a second. So if you look in each category, so if I just go to the individual ones. So at the very end, we have for the categories where there is a presentation or an interview, you see there in the, I don't know if you can see my arrow on it, in the final text on the description of the category, entrants who have been shortlisted for this award will be required to take part in a 15-minute telephone interview as part of the judging process. So that'll be clear on all the individual ones. And then on the contact centre of the year ones, again, we just explain entrants who have been shortlisted for this award will be required to present and validate their submission to a team of judges on a date and venue to be agreed. So it's very clear when you read the overview of each category, which category requires a presentation and or interview. Hopefully that answers that.
Great. I think just two more quick ones, hopefully, Dorothy. Another one from Kim about for the presentations, do you prefer slides or more of an interview style with supporting information, example, a booklet?
To be honest, different people approach it differently. We ask that if you're doing a short presentation, that you basically, it's a bit old-fashioned, I know, but basically you bring a hard copy, because what we found in the past is that people, by the time we get the PowerPoint or the presentation working, you've lost about 5 or 10 minutes. So generally people bring just a hard copy. We sort of say if it's, if you're bringing some sort of material in terms of the slides or PowerPoint, that it really is just your key highlights from your submission. So for instance, if it's best customer experience, that you highlight, why you think you should win. So if it's because your net promoter score has, increased, or the trend it has been very positive over the last 12 months. So you just highlight key aspects of your submission. So, you take it that the judges have obviously all read your submission, they've scored your submission. So you really just highlight key points of things you want to point out to the judges as to why you think your particular organisation should win this category. And we allow about, no more than 5 or 10 minutes for that part where you come in and you present, and then the judges will have questions on particular areas that they will just ask you on the day. And it's very informal in that respect. Now, sometimes companies will have a video that they bring that they show us, but again, we'd ask if you're doing something like that, you send it to me in advance. And again, it's only a very short, 3 or 4 minute video, because obviously that's eating into the time of judges being able to ask you questions, and that's what really those presentations are about. It's sort of digging a bit deeper in particular areas where they might have particular queries or questions on information that you've provided. So it's sort of as interactive as possible, and hopefully it provides a clear understanding of where the areas are that judges may have queries. Hope that's okay, Kim. So just going back to the hints and tips, and we're nearly there, I'm conscious of time, we're going a little bit over on time. As I mentioned earlier, include pictures, and again, for the contact center, visuals of the contact center would be great just to see. But again, if you want just 3 or 4 photographs, we don't need a family album, as it were. Definitely present performance stats in a graphical format, and if there's something you want to highlight, do spell it out. So if there's a particular month that you've got a great improvement in performance, highlight what was the factor in that. Equally, if you have a month where you have a really big dip in performance, explain what was the factors there that maybe impacted. So it might be new recruits coming on into the contact center. So don't ignore what the graph is showing, just point out the things that you think you yourself would be asking if you were looking at those stats. Very much avoid in-house jargon. We have a running joke that some years we have to get glossaries of some companies because some of the in-house jargon is something that as external parties, judges don't understand. So if you've terminology that you use internally and that won't be familiar to people outside the organisation, please do explain it. And highlight the particular features, culture of your operation, and again, as going back to the stats, highlight any trends that you think are appropriate to highlight. And very much for every category, we're looking for you to tell us why you think you should be the winner of this award. So what's either different about your operation, or what you've done differently in the last year, or if you've done something particularly clever that you don't think anybody else is doing, let us know about that. The same for the individual entries. Why was that person picked of all the other people in your organisation, and why should they win the award? And as a segue into that, it's the people categories provide an overall picture of the entrant. And then we talk about the judges' call, which you're obviously on today, and very much start working on your submission as early as possible. I know we're coming into the beautiful weather. It might be difficult to focus on this, but we find that if people can put together a team to work on the submissions, that can really help divide out the workload rather than leaving it on somebody's shoulders. Generally for ones like advisor and team leader, somebody writes it about the person rather than the person putting together their own entry. And we feel that works better because sometimes when people are putting together their own entry, they can sometimes be a little bit shy and maybe not, push themselves because they don't want to be seen to be pushed themselves. So we generally find with the advisor, team leader, it's either one of their peers or one of their managers who will work on putting the entry together. And also take it, if you're entering a couple of categories, don't worry that if you're using, say, the overview of your operation, you're using the same text across a couple of categories. Don't worry about repetition because different judges judge different categories. So it isn't that the same judge is going to be reading all of your submissions. So just, treat each submission as a standalone one, because, as I say, it'll be different judges judging different categories. And the last one is to get somebody outside your organization to read it. And that's really important because what we find sometimes is as a team or as an individual, you're working so closely on the submission that you maybe lose sight of the detail. So if you get somebody external or in a different department to read it and to be objective and to be able to say to you, well, actually that doesn't make sense, or you're repetitive there or whatever, it just, I think, adds value to the process and helps in your final entry. So dates for the diary, closing date for entries is 5 p.m. Wednesday, the 4th of September. As I say, the overall shortlist will be announced on the 28th of October. But as I explained earlier on, for any of the categories that require presentations or interviews, I will be in touch with you a lot sooner than that. And the awards ceremony is Saturday, the 16th of November. And any other information, any other questions, either myself, Dorothy at ccma.ie or awards at ccma.ie. And I think that is it. I don't know if we have any further questions, Cormac.
There were just two more there, Dorothy. One from Andrea. She had an interesting question about the Customer Service Advisor Award. So,
yeah.
If a person has been nominated for that internally, but the agent is about to get a promotion, is the person still eligible, I guess, to compete in that category if they're not a client advisor anymore?
If at the time of the application they are no longer an advisor, I suppose it just makes it more difficult. But I'd go back to the dates, the relevant dates. So we're looking for an advisor of the year from sort of last July to this August, ideally. So I would say if by the time you've put in, by the 4th of September, they're no longer advisor, they might not be the right person to put in for it. And then maybe if they're being promoted to a team leader, but then they're too short probably in a team leader role to go forward for that. So I think I'd be saying no, if they're no longer a team leader by the 4th of September, they're probably not the right candidate to put forward for it.
And the last one then, Dorothy, so far is from Mark, and he's asking, are there any examples of the types of questions the judges asked during the 15-minute phone call?
To be fair, they're the types of questions we'd normally ask, and we just sort of relax people into it because I'm conscious that sometimes people can be quite nervous. So we generally ask them to give us, a brief sort of, almost like an overview of their career to date. We generally ask them something about, a particular challenging, either a call that they've had to deal with or an exchange they've had to deal with and how they've handled that. We'll sometimes ask them about, what are the challenges of the role and how they address those challenges. It's 3 or 4 questions. It's not a set list of questions every year. We sort of sit down and review what the questions would be, but it's generally, something, an overview of their career to date and an outline of their role and responsibility so that they're, they're comfortable in terms of just providing that information and talking about their role, something about addressing challenges. And then generally we will have a question relevant to their submission. So it might be that, we're told as part of the submission they've been working on a particular project. So we might ask them particularly about the work they've done on that project. And it's generally, with all of these things, we're not trying to catch people out in any way. We really are just trying to understand the individual for those ones and get a sort of a picture of the individual and their role with their responsibilities and why they would have been picked and put forward. And it is the advisor one in particular is a very difficult category every year because there's so many worthy potential winners, and unfortunately we can only give out one award. Now we generally highly commend maybe 2 or 3 other individuals in that category, but it can be a really difficult one. But again, I'd probably recommend that you go back and have a look at last year's Book of the Night, and it'll give you a flavour of why the judges selected the winner that was there last year. It was Kieran and Skye, but also why people were highly commended in that category as well.
Just one more in, Dorothy, from Kim, and it's relating to Andrea's question. So the question is, can we put forward a CSA advisor that has been put forward to work part-time on project work? The CSA is still their main job title.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You can put that person forward, because we, as I say, generally in that category, we find that the person put forward is somebody that generally is selected to participate in sort of new projects and be a member of that. And that just, you know, I suppose adds to their experience. So absolutely that person could be put forward. Great. So if that's all of the questions, thank you so much for your time, and sorry we've gone a little bit over than the time than I expected. As I say, a recording of this call will be made available. A copy of the presentation will go up on the website now, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to either give me a call or drop me an email on dorothy@ccma.ie. So thank you very much, and thanks Cormac for your help as always.
No problem at all. Thanks, Dorothy.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.